So we have seen how to distribute content in different nodes of a CDN and how to associate users to these different nodes. Let's now see what is the treatment that a video follows, starting from the moment it has been recorded to the moment in which a user is watching it. So there are different processing involved in this. I resumed them in this slide. So far we have just talked about one of them. Now let's talk about encoding. Actually, after a video is recorded, then the first thing you need to do is to encode it to different formats. What is a codec, actually? A codec is a method to store a multimedia file in digital form, and it can be implemented in software or hardware. So encoding is the process of using a codec to store a multimedia file. Decoding is the process of using a codec to instead taking a multimedia file and reproducing it. There are different types of codecs. If you talk about video, we have H.264, HEVC, and we have a codecs for videos and for audio. What do we expect from a codec? Well, it should be able to compress a lot the information. So the same video we would like to be represented in files as small as possible, so to distribute them easily. But at the same moment, we don't want to degrade the quality too much. Moreover, we want to the process of encoding and decoding to be easy and fast. And so this is where the different codecs make their competition, okay, on these parameters. And there may be one encoder that is better in compression ratio, another that is more efficient to do the operation of compression and decompression, etc. When you encode a video, you have to decide different parameters. The first one is the resolution, that is the number of horizontal and vertical bits in which you want to represent each frame of your video. So in this picture, I'm showing a famous picture of Lena from Playboy magazine. That is actually the picture used by all the researchers and people working in image processing. And we see that when if we decrease the resolution too much, we have just few bits to represent the information and the quality is degraded. You can also, you may have noticed also that you can decide you can change the resolution of a YouTube video by using an appropriate command. And for instance, if your video you have a lot of rebuffering and the video cannot be reproduced, sometimes it's better to degrade the quality, degrade the resolution, so that you need less information to download. And if you have problems with internet capacity, this may be the only way you can watch a video. This picture just gives you an example of how much the amount of information or amount of pixel changes if we go from 720p, that is one medium resolution, let's say, to a 4K resolution. That has, we go from more or less 1 million pixels to 8.29 million megapixels. Another parameter is the frames per second. So a video is nothing more than a sequence of pictures. And the more pictures you have for each second, the more the image will be fluid, the movements will be fluid. Actually, old silent movies had 16 frames per second. Now in YouTube you can find videos of 30 frames per second up to 60. Another parameter is the size of the group of pictures. Actually, it's true that a video is a sequence of image, but we don't represent every frame as a complete and independent picture. Instead, we have iframes that are actually complete pictures. And then we have P and B frames that are just describing the difference of that frame with respect to the I frame. So, for instance, if you are encoding a video of a talk show like this one at the top, most of the image doesn't change. What changes is just the hand of the presenter, okay, a bit of the face of the people there, but most of the picture doesn't change. So it means that after an eye picture, the bits you need to represent just the changes are very few. Okay, so sending, instead of complete pictures, a group of pictures in which you have just one iframe and then B and P frames allows you to save a lot of bandwidth. Okay, and actually, by definition, a group of pictures is the group of frames from one iframe to the next iframe. So all the other frames in the group of pictures are just differences, let's say. Of course, if, when you do the same process to another kind of video, suppose you encode an action movie, then the difference from a frame to the subsequent one are a lot. So you need more information to encode these differences. This is why, even if you have the same resolution, different contents may produce a different amount of bits transmitted per second. So the bit rate of a video doesn't depend only on the resolution, but also depends on the nature of the video, because the videos that change a lot need a higher bit rate. So you may find tables like this that associate to each resolution a certain bit rate, but you should keep in mind that this is just an average bit rate, okay? Because the actual bit rate changes continuously. This is a clear example of what I'm saying. Here, the resolution of the video is always the same, 720p. The codec is always the same, but the actual bit rate, the number of bits per second received, changes with time. For instance, in this region here, where we don't have a lot of bits per second, this means that in the video at that moment there are no changes. Okay, while here we have a peak, so it means that the video is changing a lot in that second. It is also interesting to notice that even if you fix a certain resolution, different content providers tend to send videos with different bit rates. Okay, and this may depend on the nature of the videos themselves, or also on the choice of the codecs these different content providers have. So a video is a complex thing. There is not only the video flow, a sequence of pictures, but also an audio information, and then other metadata like subtitles or clickable elements. Sometimes in a video there are overlays on which the user can click, etc. These are all additional information to the video content. And also we find a manifest. A manifest is a sort of index that describes all the elements of a video. The video flow itself, the audio, the kind of codec that is used, the metadata, the languages that are available, etc. All these elements put together, all these elements are packaged together in a container. So a container includes a video information, audio information, metadata, and a manifest. This is an example of a manifest. So you see we have a name of the video, then the average bandwidth, bit per second, the resolution, the aspect, so this is a squared video, the codec, and other information. Okay? And then we have a sequence of segment description. A segment, also called chunk, is a piece of video. Actually, a video is divided in different small files, each encoding few seconds of a video, in this case 2 seconds. And so here in the manifest we specify the sequence of chunks that are available and the duration of each of them. Now, there are different video standards. A standard defines different things: the codec of the video, the codec of the audio, the format of the container, and so the format of the metadata, and the format of the manifest. There are different proprietary standards. The most common one is, I think, Apple HLS. And we have also open standards. The most important is MPEG-, which became standard in 2012, and it is used by YouTube, Netflix, by all the major players. And in this standard, all the big names of the internet contributed: Microsoft, Adobe, Akamai, Apple, etc. Another aspect that nowadays is used for distributing content is DRM, Digital Right Management. In fact, content providers want to prevent users to copy content in their hard disk and to reproduce this content later, or to give this content to their friends. Okay? So in order, digital right management is a technique that prevents users to store content in their hard disk and to reuse it later. So how does it work? So it is quite complicated, so I will not enter into the details. I'm not an expert in this. But the concept is that usually content providers don't deal with DRM themselves. They just give the video to the CDN, and it's the CDN which offers DRM services. So the CDN will encode and encrypt the video. Then when if you want to watch a video that is protected by DRM, you need a browser and you need a specific plugin in your browser. This plugin is coded in a specific way. So there are different techniques: anti-debug, code obfuscation, etc. All these techniques are meant to make this plugin ununderstandable, okay, by a human, and also to store information within the plugin in a hidden way. In fact, when your browser, actually the plugin of your browser, wants to start reproducing a protected video, so first it just receives encrypted video. Okay, so to decrypt it, it needs a key, and so to do so, it requests this key called license to the CDN. The CDN provides this decryption key. So now the plugin is able to decrypt the video and to reproduce it. But pay attention that this key is obfuscated. So it is somewhere in the plugin, but it's difficult to take it. So even an expert user, a geek, is not generally able to look into the plugin and to get this key. So this means that we can the plugin can use this key to decrypt the content and to reproduce it, but then the content is over. We cannot reuse this content again because the content is encrypted and we still don't know the key. The key has been used by the plugin but has been kept secret. So normally the user has no way to copy the video. So this is why when you watch Netflix, there is no option that allows you to store videos in your hard disk. Of course, there's something that you cannot prevent users to do. That is let's say the analog hall. It is called like this, which is when the user watches a video on Netflix and it just records it with an external camera, with his smartphone, etc. So we cannot do anything against it, of course. This is called analog hall. What is important to notice is that the very same video needs to be transformed under different representations, because you can choose different codecs, different resolutions, different container formats, and different digital right management solutions. Microsoft will provide you with a certain digital right management plugin, Adobe with another one, etc. And each user will be able to adopt one of these combinations. For instance, certain user may be able to install in their browser DRM from Microsoft and to read a certain format of container. Other users may be able to use other DRM solutions and other containers, etc. So if you want to reach a large audience, you want to be watched by any users, and so the result is that you need to take a single video and to transform it into a very large number of representations. For instance, Netflix represents each video with 120 representations, in order to be sure that all the users with all the combination of devices and plugins and browsers will be able to read their content. So, of course, this is a quite complicated process. It takes a lot of time and computational resources, and also a lot of knowledge of all the standards and the solutions available in the market. This is why usually content providers don't deal with this complexity themselves, but they just give the video, the raw video, to CDNs, and they will deal with all this transformation. Except, okay, maybe Netflix, which is at the same time content provider and also CDN for its own content. Other operations that a CDN may do is to add advertisement to the content, okay, and in the form of overlays. And advertisements are not usually static, but they change. So if a certain user is consuming a video, there will be specific ads for him, and another user consuming the same video may see different ads. Finally, another service that CDN offers is analytics. As we have seen, actually CDN takes the role of content provider. So we have seen that users consume content directly from the CDN and no more from the content provider. So the CDNs have perfect visibility of all the operations that the users do. They know if the user is abandoning a video because the quality is not sufficient. They can measure if the user has experienced rebuffering episodes or slow startup time, etc. So they can collect all this information and provide this information back to the content providers, which can try then to improve their content in order to increase user engagement.